Good afternoon. Welcome to episode 44 of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and warm confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. In this episode 44, we're going to touch on to the NBA Finals Game 3 notes. I know it's a little bit kind of some days removed, but I've done Game 3 and 4 reviews. You'll be seeing Game 4 come shortly. The Game 4 review shortly pop up on my YouTube channel. For my Spotify viewers, Apple Podcast viewers, you will be seeing this as well. Hopping right into it, we had kind of knew that early on that Kristaps Porzingis was not going to be in the game. However, the Mavericks were hot and were aggressive with Boston and were pushing the pace. By the middle of the first quarter, the Mavericks were up by 13 points. So it seemed like the Mavericks had definitely wanted to set the tone after losing the game 2. You didn't want to go down 3-0. They came out with the right energy that you would necessarily need. However, it didn't sustain, but we'll get into that in a little bit further. Jason Tatum was the primary offensive weapon for Boston early in the game. He had a three-point shot going. You could just tell in Game 3 he was a man on a mission. He was damn determined he was going to win or do what he needed to for the Celtics to win that game. Kyrie Irving was really in a flow early and was hitting his three-point shots, which again, you guys have heard me touch on all postseason throughout that Kyrie's three since the Western Conference Finals has been missing. It's been MIA for lack of better words, and it's good to see that in Game 3 he was getting it going. Jaylen Brown, though, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. Jaylen Brown was assertive and into the game plan, and he ultimately was the straw that stirred the drink for the Celtics in this game. Without him, they would have lost this game, hands down. Without him, they would have lost this game. He was the energy. He was the putback dunks, rising above the rim, hitting clutch shots. He was just a stir that, he was a straw that stirred the drink that night for Boston. Which leads me into another thing I want to give their coach Mike Mazzulla something that he's been good on. This team, though they've had their woes, and I'll be touching on that too shortly, though they've had their woes at times offensively, the ball movement and the defense has been superb for the Celtics all postseason. It's just one of those things that's literally been their calling card. It's probably the reason they could possibly pull out this game tonight and win the NBA championship. It could be the reason why they went into the finals at some point. But again, just their calling card, defensive ball movement, it was supreme in this Game 3. And it just showed you why they're in the position that they're in. Dallas severely lacked that. And there's just one of the reasons of why you could see that they couldn't push the pace and the ball the way they needed to, and the ball movement just wasn't there. It was kind of a lot of ISO, create your own shot, which we all know against the Celtics that's not going to beat them consistently on on a consistent basis on any given night. So you got to come with a full-fledged effort to beat this Boston team, and Dallas just didn't have the ball movement they needed to help other guys get set up and create shots. In the third quarter is where things got even more interesting, though. In the third quarter, Boston hit 5 threes in comparison to Dallas's 1. It sounds minuscule, but when you really pay attention to really understand that that's the game and that's really how things play out, I mean, essentially, the third quarter is what helped Boston kind of pull away and win this Game 3. Going further, the Mavericks were down by 21 points. I mean, you're going into the fourth quarter, and to think about that, just you're mentally, it's Game 3, you're getting your ass kicked, you're not really where you want to be mentally, you're not really where you want to be, emotionally, and you got to rise up to that challenge. So keep this in mind. They were down 21 points. And this is one of the things that worries me about this Boston team. I've kind of been pointing this out through all postseason. And again, tonight, if they win, won't fucking matter, won't make a difference. However, when you really sit back and really assess, they have been a poor three-point shooting team the past couple rounds. They've not really shot the ball from 3 well. They've gotten away with timely plays, a steal, good defense, fouls being called, not being called. I digress. Nonetheless, that's how it works. It's worked out for them. But to be up by 21 in the fourth quarter, and interesting, by the 7:48 mark, the Mavs were already on a 12-0 run. So keep that in mind. 7:48 mark, the Mavs were on a 12-0 run. PJ Washington starts getting hot, and I want to make sure I give this man his credit because he's been hot for them all postseason. He's been one of their big shot makers for them. And I don't want to say like he's been more clutch than Kyrie or Luka because he damn sure hasn't. But he's hit timely threes that's put them in position to be in the finals and to be competing for a championship. And I just want to make sure PJ Washington gets his props. He's not a household name. He's not a guy that's going to go out there every night and just light you on fire. But if you sleep on him, he'll bust your ass. Now again, by the 4:13 mark, the Mavs were on a 20-2 run. So again, this is speaking to the Boston, letting their foot off the gas, going through these offensive laws, not hitting shots. Something I feel like they have to, if they really want to be champions, they cannot let their foot off the gas tonight, because Game 3 was a microcosm of what I've been seeing from them the past 2 rounds, Eastern Conference Finals and going into the NBA Finals. But at that point, though, keep this in mind, that the run had lasted for 7 minutes. So Boston only scored 1 point. They only scored 1 possession. Not good. Not good. And then at the 4:12 mark, unfortunately, Luka fouled out. Luka Doncic fouled out. And I give Luka credit because he was playing physical defense. But at the late stage of the game or end of the game, that's a bad call. That blocking foul that he received that got him out, that was a bad call. He set his feet. He got knocked off. He had time to set. It just seemed like, to me, ultimately, the referees were kind of leaning more towards Boston. I could be wrong. I know they were in Dallas, but this seems like it's weird. That's a weird call for a superstar player to not get, especially playing defense in that moment. It just seemed very weird how they all transpired. He was able to quickly set his feet, but the ref gave him the foul. Whatever. And you got to give Kyrie credit because he was able to keep the Mavericks afloat. And keep this in mind, because you have not heard me say yet that the run had stopped. At that point, 8 minutes had transpired. You're talking about Luka being fouled out of the game. The Mavericks were still on a 22-2 run. I got to give Mike Mazzulla credit. You jumped out to a 3-0 lead. You definitely put the punishment, onto Kyrie, forcing him to take bad shots, forcing him to make shots, take shots he doesn't want to take, making life hell for Luka on the offensive and defensive end, more defensive than offensive. But I must say this, because I think I would be a fucking fool not to say this. If the Celtics continue to play like this, they will be the first team ever in NBA history to lose a NBA Finals series up 3-0. You cannot have lulls like this where for 8 minutes you're up by 21 points and now you literally are back within a 3-point game. It's back within 1 possession again. It's just, I get that basketball is a game of runs. But your calling card is defense. That's shitty defense in the NBA Finals when you're trying to go up 3-0. Just not good look. Something I think that needs to be kept the eye on, something of note. And I'll also be remiss if I gave PJ Washington his credit. I'd be remiss if I didn't give Derek White his credit. He had major threes throughout this game and in Game 3. He made a ton of timely passes and switches. He played well. He's been playing well for them ultimately throughout the whole postseason. And I just want to make sure I gave Derek White his credit because, guys like him, sometimes they get mentioned, but they don't really get the notice. I've been watching him all postseason. The switches, the shots, the defense he's played. I just want to give kudos to Derek White. He's definitely been putting up considerable recognition for him to be a guy that's going to be a cornerstone on Boston's bench and a pivotal player for them going forward. And the Mavs, again, if they play more consistent defense, that is, and take necessary threes, they'll be able to come back in the series. It's not like Boston is just dominating them. They're taking Luka out the game. They're taking Kyrie out. Derek Lively coming back has been a huge influence for the Mavericks offense and defense. The defensive rebounding that he's been getting has just been tremendous. I really feel like this is the Mavs series to win. And it's definitely, if the Celtics don't do what they need to do tonight in this game 5, I just feel like ultimately Dallas will come back and win this series. And if you don't really want that, because it's going to boil down and come down to a point where essentially you're going to have guys just, stepping out of place and losing, and then it becomes head games at that point. But that's going to do it for this episode. I thank you guys for always watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Take care. You guys have a great day.